He exposed the weaponization of justice, calling out the corruption at the highest levels. President Trump's direct interference in legal decisions, including ordering indictments, has shaken the very foundation of American justice. What's being hidden here? Stick around and you'll see exactly how deep the corruption runs.
Senator Blumenthal.
Thanks, Mr. Chairman. Just so the American people understand, this issue of weaponization of justice goes to the core of the integrity of our criminal justice system. And I think we can all agree that no individual, no group should be targeted simply because they are a political opponent or because the President of the United States has some personal animosity toward them. You've just said that President Trump is the most transparent president in history. Tragically and chillingly, you may be right when it comes to criminal justice, because far from ending weaponization of justice, I would submit, Madam Attorney General, that President Trump has embodied it. And we have a record. It is a public record of his express instructions that certain individuals be investigated. The Attorney General of New York, Tish James, my colleague Adam Schiff, the former CISA director, Chris Krebs, the DHS former Chief of Staff, Miles Taylor. There's a list. And he has been transparent. In fact, 5 days before the indictment of James Comey, he put this post up as instructions to you. He didn't mince words. He was very open and public that you should indict James Comey and others because they are guilty as hell. No more delay. Now, 5 days before you indicted, or grand jury at your instructions indicted James Comey. I'd like to know from you what conversations you've had with President Trump about the indictment of James Comey.
Senator, I am not going to discuss any conversations I have or have not had with the President of the United
Did you
States.
see that
You're
post?
an attorney. You have a law degree, and you know that I'm not going to do that. I also find it fascinating, because I'll keep fighting to ensure that law enforcement and the judicial process move forward without political interference. No one is above the law, not even the president. That's a quote from you, Senator Blumenthal, in 2017.
Well, let me ask you then, when you saw that
No
post,
one is above the law. That was your quote.
When you saw that post, did you talk to anybody in the White House?
I am not going to discuss any conversations I have, nor any investigations,
So
nor
you were unwilling to
any
tell
pending
this committee
cases.
about conversations with the White House
And if I
regarding
may
James
continue,
Comey's indictment.
and if I may
Let me show
continue,
you a picture.
James Comey was indicted by one of the most liberal grand juries in the United States.
The night before James Comey's indictment, you had dinner with the President of the United States. Pretty intimate group.
Actually, there
James
were a lot of
Comey
people there that
discussed-
night. That's a great
Was James
picture.
Comey discussed at that dinner?
I love that picture. That's a great picture. And there were a lot of people there that night. I think the
Well-
entire cabinet was there.
Did you discuss James Comey with the President of the United States? He was sitting just to your left.
Well, 2 seats down, yes. 2 seats down. And I am not going to discuss any
I'm going to take
conversations
that
I've
as
had
a
or
yes,
not have with the
because the
President of the
American
United
public
States.
is entitled to know, Madam Attorney General.
The entire cabinet
whether
was at that
you
dinner,
took
too,
instructions from President Trump after he told you very directly to indict James Comey, which is weaponization of the Department of Justice.
Oh,
You know,
wait.
I want to agree with my colleague, Senator Hawley, that weaponization of our justice system must end. That's the reason that I propose legislation, and I challenge him and my colleagues on the other side of the aisle to join me in legislation that would create a statutory right of action for people who are selectively or maliciously prosecuted for political reasons? It would codify your manual, the Department of Justice manual, on political prohibitions against political considerations in charging decisions, and prohibit the White House from intervening, President Trump and any other president from intervening in charging decisions. It would make reforms to the grand jury process. You've just said this grand jury was liberal. We should reform the grand jury process to ensure that the government is not abusing its power and authority, and it will require transparency and accountability reforms at DOJ so that you will and other attorneys general be held accountable for these kinds of decisions. Will you join me in supporting that kind of reform?
Senator Blumenthal, I find it so interesting that you didn't bring any of this up during President Biden's administration when he was doing everything to protect Hunter Biden, his son. And I think you just saw what Director Radcliffe just released.
You know, this is an effort to be positive.
If I can finish answering the question, I'm not going to yell over you. I'm not going to get in the gutter with you. But information that the Biden administration told them not to investigate Hunter Biden's involvement with Ukraine. I'm not going to be lectured to you about integrity by someone who lied about being in the military just to be elected a senator.
The merger between Hewlett-Packard Enterprises and Juniper Network was settled. You authorized the settlement. It was the subject of a lawsuit to block it. The settlement produced virtually no concessions from Hewlett-Packard. It was a settlement that prompted criticism from the Antitrust Division. Did you authorize that settlement yourself?
As I stated earlier, Gail Slater is doing an incredible job running the antitrust unit. And as I stated earlier, that is still a pending matter. As you should know with a law degree,
did you not,
that all mergers, if I can finish answering the question.
I'm going to,
if I could finish, no, I'm answering the question.
Because my time is limited.
No, well then don't ask me a question.
Let me just ask you,
as I said, you have a law degree. You know that not only are mergers agreed upon, but they have to go to a court of law to be approved. It's a multi-step process. And as I said earlier, that is still pending. And I have full faith in Gail Slater.
And Ms. Slater reportedly objected to the settlement.
Reportedly.
And moreover, two of her top officials were fired, Roger Alford and Bill Sinner. Did you authorize and direct those firings after they objected to the settlement?
I am not going to discuss personnel matters or pending litigation in my office.
Let me ask you about another merger. The merger involving two home health care agencies on favorable terms, likely to drive up costs for millions of America. The Transportation Department's rule to provide compensation to travelers impacted by airline-caused flight delays, which was canceled. The merger of Skydance and Paramount, after Paramount's ownership took a number of steps favorable to the president. These kinds of mergers belie the claims that President Trump himself has made, that this administration will stop big corporate mergers that ultimately benefit the owners of those corporations rather than consumers or ordinary, everyday Americans.
Senator,
let me ask you
about
you
just listed, you just gave a list of many mergers.
I have a question
Can you talk to me about the issue with these mergers?
I do have a question. In the merger that took place.
Which merger? You've listed many.
Involving American Express GBT I understand that Brian Ballard, longtime backer and head of the law firm where you worked, was instrumental in lobbying the Justice Department to drop that lawsuit. It was dismissed, so it's not subject to a court review. What conversation did you have with Mr. Ballard?
Senator Blumenthal, I cannot believe that you would accuse me of impropriety when you lied about your military service.
I am
you
not
lied.
asking
You
you.
admitted you
I am
lied
not
to be
accusing you
elected
of
a U.S. senator.
impropriety. I'm
You
asking
lied.
you
How
about
dare you? I'm a
conversations
career prosecutor.
with Mr.
Don't you
Ballard,
ever challenge my integrity.
had
I have
apparently-
abided by every ethics standard. Do not question my ability to be fair and impartial as Attorney General and anything
You'll
with
answer that
my
question to
former
another of my
firm,
colleagues.
Ballard Partners.
Thank you.
Senator Lee has asked for the chair.
Yeah, just wanted to note for the record, the Paramount merger that he referenced was not within the Department of Justice's ambit. That was at the FCC, not the Department of Justice. Attorney General Bondi would have had nothing to do with that. Thanks.
And that
What you just witnessed was an extraordinary display of political power being wielded against the justice system itself. Senator Blumenthal's questioning of the Attorney General revealed a deeply troubling reality. The weaponization of the American justice system has reached a point where the law is being bent to serve political agendas rather than the Constitution. This isn't an isolated incident. This is a dangerous trend that risks undermining the very foundation of our democracy. At the heart of this exchange is a crucial issue that goes beyond partisan politics: the integrity of our criminal justice system. When President Trump, or any president, can publicly call for the indictment of political opponents and target individuals based on personal grudges or political motivations, it's not just an abuse of power, it's a threat to the rule of law. The fact that Attorney General Barr refuses to discuss his conversations with President Trump, especially in the context of James Comey's indictment, is a red flag. What we saw was not just a breakdown in communication, it was an erosion of accountability, and it sets a dangerous precedent for future administrations. Let's break down what happened here. Senator Blumenthal's questioning was calculated, deliberate, and revealing. He pointed out the stark contradiction between Attorney General Barr's statement in 2017 when he declared that no one is above the law, and the reality of how President Trump had consistently interfered with investigations. 5 days before Comey's indictment, President Trump posted a public instruction demanding that Comey be indicted. This wasn't a whisper in the ear of the Attorney General, it was a direct order. And yet, when asked about it, the Attorney General refused to disclose any conversations he may have had with the president. What kind of justice system operates this way? When a sitting president can make such public demands, and the Attorney General refuses to explain how those demands are handled, it's clear that something has gone very wrong in the relationship between the White House and the justice system. Now, let's take a step back and consider the implications of what we're seeing. The fact that 17 high-ranking military officers were removed from their positions within 9 months, as mentioned by Senator Blumenthal in another context, mirrors this same pattern of political interference. Whether it's in the military or the justice system, this purge mentality, the removal of individuals who don't align with the political narrative, has devastating consequences for institutional integrity. The message being sent is clear: speak out and you're gone. Disagree with the president and your career is over. This is not just a matter of personal ambition or politics. It's about upholding the values that define this nation: truth, transparency, and justice. It's not just about James Comey. It's about the principle that the justice system should not be a political tool. The DOJ is supposed to be impartial, but what we're seeing here is a dangerous blurring of the lines between politics and the rule of law. The Attorney General's refusal to discuss his conversations with President Trump, despite public calls from the president to target specific individuals, paints a chilling picture of what happens when the justice system becomes subservient to the whims of political leaders. This is no longer about the facts or the law. It's about the exploitation of power for political gain. Let's talk about what this means for the American people. Citizens across the nation rely on the justice system to be fair, unbiased, and transparent. When that system is hijacked by political interests, the foundation of our democracy is weakened. It's not just about James Comey, Adam Schiff, or Tish James. It's about every American citizen who expects the law to be applied equally, regardless of political affiliation. When those in power use the justice system as a weapon against their enemies, it creates a climate of fear and distrust. People begin to question whether they too might become targets if they speak out against the government or disagree with its policies. This is not just about a partisan issue. This is about human rights and the fundamental freedoms we hold dear. The reality is that when political interference becomes a norm in the justice system, the consequences are far-reaching. The weaponization of the DOJ doesn't just affect the individuals targeted, it undermines the entire system. It sets a precedent where laws are no longer applied equally, and justice is determined by political loyalty rather than facts or fairness. The American people deserve better than this. We deserve a justice system that is independent, impartial, and uncompromised by political influence. This isn't just about asking questions or debating policy. This is about restoring the integrity of our institutions. What do we stand for as a nation? Do we stand for the rule of law? Or do we stand for a system of privilege where the powerful can bend the law to their will? We cannot allow this. We cannot allow politicians and political appointees to turn the justice system into a tool for personal or partisan advantage. It's not just unethical, it's a direct threat to the democratic principles we fought so hard to preserve. The key question now is, what are we going to do about it? The status quo is not an option. We need reform, and we need it now. We need to ensure that our justice system is protected from political interference, no matter who is in power. Senator Blumenthal's proposed legislation is a step in the right direction, but it's not enough. We need to ensure full transparency in how decisions are made, accountability for those who abuse their power, and protection for the individuals who are supposed to uphold the law, not enforce political agendas. We must demand change. We must demand a system where the law is applied equally, where decisions are made based on facts, and where no one is above the law, not even the president. It's time to take action, to hold those in power accountable, and to ensure that justice prevails in every corner of this nation. What's at stake here is more than just a few high-profile indictments. It's the very future of our democracy. The American people cannot afford to remain silent while these abuses continue unchecked. We need to make our voices heard, and we need to demand that those who have weaponized the justice system are held accountable. Share this video if you believe that no one is above the law. Subscribe to stay updated on this critical issue, and stay loud, because we will not let this corruption go unchecked. The fight for justice starts now.